G'day, good evening, thanks for listening. This is an agricultural and horticultural show focusing on plant science, soil science and microbiology, and the information provided is for scientific and educational purposes, and it's fact-checked. So any of the websites or papers that have been discussed will be put in the description below for you to go through later on. Today's topic is probably going to be a continuation of the soil science and soil fertilizers, was it soil health and soil fertilizers course, university course that I took, that was written in 2022, and it's up to week 7 today. So unless there's some questions come through or discussion topics, that's what's going to happen. So more than likely that will happen. That's how it's been going for the last period, sort of halfway through the course now. It's one of the better courses that I took, so that's why I thought I'll go through that one. And I cover 1 week in the lectures in today's topic. So I'll go through all the slides and discuss them. So I'll give it another 30 seconds for the cool folk to arrive, like Scarecrow 420. How are you going? Cheers, everyone. It's another 15 seconds, and then we'll get into that course, I presume, which is so excellent. It was so to the point. A lot of other courses I've done, they give you a broad picture on it. This one just hits the topic so solidly and really explains it in depth, which I don't go in depth for because it takes too long. Because I'm trying to give one week's worth of class lectures in 1 hour. So it's yeah. You can pause it though and read the slides if you'd like. If you want to go into more detail or question me later and I can explain or elaborate on them. Righto, we're going to get into it. So, this is what I've been up to. No, come on, what am I doing? The class. Now it's ready. Right, let's try again. Let's get into soil fertility and fertilizers course. So these are all the weeks. You're going to have to get the notes for week 12, but still up to covered all those nutrients, nutrition, the 17 essential and beneficials that a plant requires, a couple of beneficials. Did the soil health at the start because that was excellent. Soil testing. I think up to this one. Soil health, quality, problems, and what's the last bit? Land capability classifications. Righto. Here we go. It's not sharing. I'm glad I looked at that screen. Oh, I got to press the allow bit. Oh, now I pressed allow. Okay, reset. So soil have unique physical, chemical, and biological properties. That's the 3 elements that make up the soil. And what's important to their use? Well, the color, texture, structure, consistence, roots, pores, and there's a lot of other features. I'm seeing some of the examples here. This is just a brief introduction, actually. That's the soil horizons. That's the horizons. They're all horizons. Soil is a natural body of solids, liquids, and gases, which with either horizons or layers, or the ability to support rooted plants. Pedology is the study of soil. It is a unique discipline. Pedology means, actually I'm not going to, just in case I'm wrong, Soil performs vital functions. It sustains plants and animal life below and above, regulates water flow, filters heaps of bad things, and it stores and cycles nutrients, which is so important. That's the whole key. If you can understand this bit, you're halfway, 3/4 of the way there. And also, soil performs vital functions like providing structures to support things above. Why are we concerned for soil? Well, I'm not going to get into the history of it, so I'll skip through 1,000 years of slides here. But what's this one say? 1,000 years requires to develop 1 inch or 25 mil of surface soil from parent materials through natural processes. So 1,000 years, so it's pretty important. What's good or bad soil is one of the most differentiation factors between survival and extinction for most land-based life. Pretty much the way that the planet's heading, because they're all interested in putting in herbicides and pesticides, which kill a lot of the good microbes, and they're looking at supplementing mineral fertilizer instead of organic fertilizer. So it's going to have downstream effects, pollutes things. It creates too much, for instance, nitrogen areas, so things will survive where they shouldn't be surviving, microbes. What does this go on to say? This is a bit more of a... We're going to this one. Soil acts as both source and sink. 3.3 times of carbon in the soil than the atmosphere. So it's good CO2 sequestration. We must reckon with the rising demand of food. Okay, this I'm not going to get that into it. Common arthropodic stresses on soil. So what's some common arthropod that stresses on the soil? So agricultural operations, deforestation, warfare, natural calamity. So deforestation is probably the most worst one, because you see, for instance, in Australia, if the property is zoned rural, or is a zoning that you can have so that you can chop down as many trees you want. Well, most properties have that, so they're not regulated. Where if you're in other zones, you're not allowed to chop down a tree, you've got to get a permit for it, but deforestation still happens, and they're not stopping it or reducing it because the farmers in Australia, they got this poor way of practicing farming where they think that you've got to go and get a bulldozer and strip the land and then poison it and then refertilize it to grow exactly what they want instead of working with it. So that's why Australia's one of the worst on the planet, even though they lie about it. Soil degradation. It is the loss of actual or potential productivity of usually due to natural or anthropogenic factors. And here's a little chart of the stresses and degradation processes. So stresses or traffic, poor drainage, intensive cropping of the same crop, or the use of agrochemicals or monoculture like I was just going on about. Soil degradation, how does it degrade? Slowly through different chemical, physical and biological processes. It'll go down and degrade. That's why it's very important to keep your organic practices up, and it won't degrade. You can keep sustainability. This is a chart of the planet, really, and looking at the soil's status. Look at Australia. I'd say it's a lot more red than it should be. No, sorry, that should, over here could be a bit greeny, but it's a broad spectrum. But everywhere, 98% of the groundwater in the USA is polluted from above surface farming practices. Isn't it amazing? Only most of the regions left are frozen. In there, they're there. It's terrible. Or deserts. Anyway, that gets a bit too much into it. I'm not going to get that much into it. What's the status? Shows the water erosion, wind erosion, chemical and physical types of different degradation factors. That's in India. So, but that's what's got to be considered. Like when you go and till the land, do you till it And as all, you see the farmers with all this dust coming off. That's the O layer or the A layer getting blown away, which is the most important. Stages of degradation in relation to soil productivity. So as it goes on, the soil degrades on the x-axis, and the y is the amount of production it has. So it just degrades over the period, few phases, few seasons, and it's gone. Unless you add to it. But no, a lot of people like to, in Australia, maintain a third phase and don't keep adding to the soil. They think, no, we're just going to feed a plant. We just want to grow a crop for our animals. Well, it's not how it works. So the goal is to identify the best management practices for sustainable crop production, organics, and to allow a farmer or land manager to know in which direction the soil's going, for better or for worse. Quantify your soil. So what's soil health? It's the chemical, physical, and biological processes that make up the same thing, and you want in the middle, in here, and that's really good soil health because you've got a stable amount of each. I'm not going to recall it. That's going to go in. Actually, I should stop. I'll see if there's anybody arrived. No, no one. Oh, well. It's all right. Still doing something I enjoy. And I hope that it helps some people. Relationship between soil health, soil function, and its indicators. So this is a pretty detailed chart on how things interact. And I'm not going to go through them all because they're quite detailed. You can see everything functions and interacts well. So if you can understand, maybe nutrient cycling is a good one, like I said before, you'll get a good broad picture of it all. Then you can go into the harder bits, the filtering, the buffering, cation exchange and redox, etc. Healthy soil supports ecosystem function. Yes, it can do everything required. Store water and filter, carbon capture and storage of carbon, biological functions and diversity, therefore productivity capacities. Relevance of soil health management for intensive agriculture. Well, it's in fertilizers consumption can make the crops more vulnerable to pests and diseases. This is going into organics. Excessive dependence on chemical fertilizers leads to more cost. I'm not going to read all this because it's self-explanatory. Objectives is I really promote organic growing, not mineral-based growing. So it's the organic grower knows all these things and has them in their practices because that's what it does. But for you, if you don't practice organics yet, pause it and read it yourself. Objectives of soil testing, soil fertility evaluation. Well, you've got to assess the nutrient status, you've got to diagnose suspected nutrient imbalances, and you've got to monitor. Role of soil testing and health. Well, the roles just to check, make sure you really know what's going on beneath the ground so you can make good decisions above the ground. pH is the main one. Then it goes into your NPKs, CalMag, sulfur, and your primaries, and secondaries that we've been through, and the salt salinity level. Because if it gets too high, too much nutrients already in there, it can't grow. It's like as if we're getting put in a room with too much oxygen. It's not a balance. Based on the contents of available nutrients in the terms of their soil test values, NPK, the soils are grouped in low, medium, and high classes. In general, the greatest response can be obtained from the low class and the least response from the high class in soil test values. Isn't that interesting? That's why people, when they say use less is best rather than putting more in, that's right. Because you just want to read the leaves and learn for yourself. Soil health, that's excellent. It's not in this blooming country though. Of course not. Because they don't care about the soil health. They just want to portray that they do in Australia. That's brilliant, that. I couldn't, anyway. India's so up on their organics because that's where I studied. because they've polluted their soils. They've got 1.5 billion people, the most populous on the planet, and they've wrecked their soils. So they've gone into ways to manage it, and how can they not wreck it anymore? And that's where I'm learning. And I'm just thinking, Australia is so far behind. Really, it blimmin' is. And even the courses that are offered are very limited, because I looked into the universities in Australia too. There's only, I think, about 80, and I looked at them all, and anyway, it's just Australia needs more education. So that's where I try and come in and share some knowledge that I've done. Soil tests for soil health, the art of science. Well, at the moment in Australia, you can really only get the labs, and they're about $80 a test. And you need to test multiple sites to get an accurate depiction of what's going on in your field. Like it's 20 test sites per hectare to be accurate. This is just involved in soil sampling. Geez, that's blooming excellent. What's this one? Components of soil health. Well, soil productivity, human and animal health, environmental quality, food quality, and safety. Soil health links between strategy and alternative agriculture and the ultimate goal of sustainable agriculture. There you go. It's the ultimate goal. Keep it sustainable. It'll work for you. That's how Mother Nature's survived over this 4.5 billion years the planet exists. It's only for the last 200 years man's interacted and killed it. Management strategies for soil health maintenance and improvement. Crop rotation, cover crops, diversity production, organic amendments, integrate livestock because you want their manure, diverse plant species because you are sustainable craving, patience, reduced soil disturbance, all make up the factors for soil health. So if you can get them in check, you're on the winning schedule for success, and for a very long period of time. I'm not talking about our lifetime, we're talking about our kids and grandkids' lifetime. So that's what we're trying to. Agricultural management practice and soil health. Tend to reduce soil health. These are the factors that reduce the soil health, and these are the ones that promote it. So factors that reduce it are tilling. So you can see no tills are better, or conservation tillage where it's 0 to 10%. What you want a crop, if it's diverse crops, are they annuals or do they keep growing each year? Crops, fruit trees, for instance. Amount, different types of fertilizers you put in. The residue retention of the stuff, do you get rid of it all? Is it dirt underneath, or do you actually drop all the leaves for it to function better? And integrated pest management, and if you spray or not. Do you spray bad things or good things? Soil health evaluation. I'm going to have a drink. I'll have to have a drink here. Pause for a sec. All right, I was hoping there'd be something else. This is where I need a counterpart to talk for me. You can look on the evaluation at resource level. I'll have to get a drink. Excuse me. So next slide. The advanced approach is for soil quality is the capacity of the soil to function, to cycle, keep it cycling. Conceptual of dynamic soil quality trends. So it's always going to degrade if you don't add to the soil. It's going to aggrade if you add to the soil. You've got to feed it. Went through the soil quality before. Selection criteria of indicators must be representative of soil functions, sensitive to change, easily measured and responsive and reproducible, Reliable, accessible, and applicable to field conditions. Let's get up to something. Attributes commonly analysed for normal soil test, pH, organic carbon, EC, and the available PK, and sometimes C available. It's not the total. You want to know what's actually available. It's a lot big different. Remember we were talking about that the last few weeks. Important physical attributes for soil quality, bulk density, how compacted the soil is. That's what that means. Roots won't get through if it's too compact, or water, or air, gases. Maximum watering holder capacity. More organic matter, the better it is. That'll improve that fast. And manure, dry manure. And the mean weight diameter. Important chemical attributes. Important biological attributes for soil quality. Well, the microbial biomass, the carbon to nitrogen, the soil enzymes, the mineralized carbon and nitrogen, and the soil biodiversity and the soil fauna. Calculating the soil quality index. Approaches to calculating the soil quality index. It's a bit of maths involved here. Well, soil quality index. Well, what can I say about this? It's going to be hard for the average person to do. You can plot it yourself, but you need numbers. So that's why, for instance, pH is a good one. I suppose you can plot that. And you can see on the left, the y-axis is the indicator score, on the x is the amount of pH. So if you put in a pH of 5, it's going to be only 50% as an indicator score. But if it's pH 7, it's going to be up around 100% indicator score. So you can go and plot them yourself, and just, if you're really interested in it, it's hard to get the actual number at the start without guessing. There's a one for nitrogen, though, you can use from the color chart. Soil quality index values for differential treatments. Comparison of 7 different locations. All right, that's a bit of a test to show what the management practices is from depletion of the soil over a period. Why do some soils get fatigued or sicked more than others? Well, it's components of the functional stability of it, which like the soil resistance or the soil resilience. So if those two things is more than that too, well, here's a nice chart of the differences for the resilience and resistance over time. You can see in years on the x-axis, the function. As it goes on, it just degrades fast because everything's being pulled out. What are you putting back in? Well, in this instance, not much. So it's got the soil with low resistance and high resilience. That's going to get confusing. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. Soil resilience decreasing over time. Yep. Disturbed. That's just not from nutrition, remember. That can be from bulk density, microbes, water, other types of erosion. And you can do a basic assessment, plotting it on this flow chart. See why soil's getting to where it's got, and fix it. Soil acidity. Okay. Is it going to get into the soil acidity? Oh, it sure is. So that's one of the major things, because if it's not in the right pH, the elements won't be unlocked or made available for the plant. Acidification. This goes right. Remember, I did say it goes into heavy detail. Titration curve of clay soil upon the slow, which is broken line, and quick acidification, which is the solid line. So it just gets lower and lower over time as the protons are added. So that's from, say, the roots even, or other processes, chemical processes. Various sources of soil acidification. There you go. This is why that chart goes down. A very detailed form of why it goes down. Soil integral products of acids, the production of it. So all the roots and all other different chemical things that can happen, they have an effect and addition of the acids by irrigation and rainwater as well. And they leach and have different flow-on effects, like the pollutant of 98% of the groundwater in the States, it's polluted. Characterization of soil acidity pools. It goes into too much detail. Impact of soil acidity on nutrient availability to plant and crop growth. Well, if it's in the wrong pH, you're not going to get anywhere. That's a little summary. It's process to consume proton ions or H+ ions to manage soil acidity. Input of carbonate and bicarbonates. Cation deposition, your CalMag, because that's, your liming, that's dolomite. If you want those two things there. Anion protension, reduction of nitrogen, sulfur, and iron compounds. Anion uptake by plants, protension of the pH-dependent charges, and absorption of acidic cations. So he goes into great detail. I'm not going to go into that much detail. Aluminum is one of the worst ones to pollute the soil. That's the flow on effect, the maths from applying lime to correct the soils. So that's by adding a large amount of calcium carbonate. It's going to come in. The dolomite has magnesium in it as well, you can see that. So it's not as high in calcium. But it's how you correct the soils if they're too acidic. Like if they're too alkaline, you put gypsum in it. That's the effects of it. 3 years of it working. Influences on immunolents application on a rice field is just different types of studies that have been done. And what is salt-affected soil? It's the accumulation of salts, soluble salts. It's called saline. When it's too high in salts, the salinity is too high. And it can't breathe. It's like us being oxygen. It's too high, you can't breathe. Salt-affected, it's terrible. Physical degradation of sodic soils. Okay, let's get salt-affected soils. Look at that in India. Nearly all of it. So that was that chart around that showed a while ago too, the world one. It's just poor. Salt crusting. Constraints of saline soil. Salt crusting, salt toxicity, nutrient deficiency, and low osmotic potential. It's just bad. You'll see all the leaves will start and shrivel. It's just really, really bad. That's why the EC, or the saline amount, is pretty important. Knowing all the ppm of your substrate before you're going to use it. Constraints of sodic soil. These are more constraints. So the difference between saline and sodic. Salinity is too much salts, and sodic is sodium. They're also bad. You really just get that when you see the white crusting, like in the desert regions or the areas that used to have high rainfall, looks like that, where they mine salt from. Measures the salt-affected soil. Well, TDS meter, which is what I use, the total dissolved solids, which is quite handy. It's a little ppm pen, $25, or you can get your wand, your EC meter, electrical conductivity, which to exchange one into the other, it's TDS equals 800 times EC. So if the EC is 1, well, the TDS is 800. Except for the TDS meters are going to cost you $100, and they're not really accurate. They only got dots in the front, ones I've used. So TDS is rad for them if you want interested in testing, and it's quite important too. I use that a lot. Reclamation of salt-affected soil. How do you reclaim it? Phyto remediation. Grow different plants or halophytes to allow the salt to cycle, and microbes can cycle it and remove it. The right kind of microbes. Effective chemical properties of the soil, pH, electrical conductivity, or the sodium absorption ratio, short for SAR. Integrated management of salt-affected soils. Biological. So if you do all these things, you can help with your salt-affected soils. Physical, all those scraping, land leveling, sandling or subsoiling. Hydraulics, chemical, and biological. Mulching, organic matter, green manure, and planting trees. Phytoremediation. Do I have to go through all this? Is there anyone interested? Hello, mainly mushrooms. How you going? Yeah. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you. Nice name. I know who you are. It's pretty cool. That's why I've changed the title of this show to agriculture and horticulture stuff. Because I'd like to get more other folk who are involved in agriculture and horticulture, plant, soil science, and microbiology, not just the small community that we used to be involved in. We used to be, you know what I mean. Anyway, back to it. Phytoremediation. Plants that grow under high salt contents. Halophytes. That's what you need for them. Mangroves, if it's too bad. Criteria selection of plants. Well, you can read this if you want to do that. I'm not going to go through it. Classification of a halophyte. What's the amount of salts in it? Is it a little bit? Is it normal? Or is it massively abnormal? Where look at the salts in the air. Nothing will grow eventually. Mechanisms involved in salt removal. Phytoaccumulation, where it accumulates in the tissue, or stabilization, where it actually processes it and it can cycle it to make it stable. So there's a few different terminologies you want to go in this cycling, or transformation, where it actually will do the whole process has happened, where it's phytally transformed. Plant select for cultivation of salt-affected lands. Well, if you're really interested, here's the actual plant names that you can get. For grasses, crops, bushes, or trees, go with some of them. It'll work really well for salt-tolerant plants. Halophytes. Reclamation of sodic soils, just with high in sodium now. How do you do that? Well, gypsum is generally used to reclaim sodium soils where the exchange complex does not have any calcium ions. Land capability classifications. Here's in the last topic. Land capability classification. It may be defined by grouping a system of grouping land into various classes based on inherent limitations imposed on sustained use by soil attributes, topography, drainage, and climate. So various places around the world group their lands differently. And this is the way in India where it's done. So you can just get one chart and look on it and think, all right, I want to start a crop. Am I in the right area? Well, no, possibly, or yes, possibly. That's how that information is used. And you want to know also, is your neighbours going to do the right thing? Are you in the area? Or are you in an area that has been heavily used in the past for bad things? So it's how the land capability classification can be utilised. That's it. At the stage. What's going on there? I don't know. Stop screen. Oh, sharing. Oh, righto. Actually, a bit odd today. Well, that's the slides for this week of soil health and quality and problem soils. Next week's going to be organic manures and organic manure manufacturing. This is going to be really good. Because, yeah, it's amazing, and I've probably got some other stuff to add personally about that organic manures, because I do it, I practice it, so I can put my little notes in there too about what I find the best. Like, isn't it amazing how cow poo is so well known, but it has a 0.5 pH NPK, mega low, and that's what I'll be going through next week. More stuff like that. Well, it could have went a bit longer, but my throat was hurting for, I don't know, it's pretty dry at the moment. Might be why. So sorry, but there's not really much coming through on the chat either. So it's all right. I think today's topic was good. I'll put in change today's title to soil health and quality and problem soils. So people who are interested can go through those slides. Hey, Dr. Trichome, how you going? Cheers. Cheers to you. Yes. Yes, it has been. I hope you're doing well in the States there. Remember, you changed your name too, mate. From, that's pretty cool though. Was it you? You reminded me of Cool Keith. I'm pretty sure that's you. Or you just missed. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I remember. Yep, it was blooming excellent. They were good fun. Well, today's show was the soil health, quality, and problems. So it was good to go through that. Next week's going to be better, though, Dr. Trichome. It'll be on organic manures. Now you're into your organics, or actually, if you want to get into your organics, if you transitioned away, like most, because it's a lot easier. But yeah, the organic manures is rad. That's how to. And there's another little NPK green organic manure that I'll be talking about that's very, very fascinating and works really well. It's not really spoken about very much. It's just incredible. I've put it to use and it's working quite well. And you can all do the same thing too. See, mate, yeah. Yes, it's interesting how that people have been cycling. It's been pretty cool. I like it. There wasn't that cool crew from back in the day. It was good fun. Oh, one day, I have to do an open panel. One day soon, if all these cool folk keep rocking up. see what's going on. But yeah, try and get your hard questions, your technical plant science, soil science, and microbiology questions. And I can share some slides to enlighten the subject. That's what my forte is, or I try and do, because I'm just starting. I got 3, I can talk about that. My next subjects for this semester are microbial technologies, plant breeding, and there's another microbe course, microbe remediation, possibly. Yeah, was 2 microbe and 1 plant breeding course, university course that I'll be taking this semester. So I can go through that too, just like I've been going through this one. There's a lot of old folks still around, says Dr. Tricone. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I don't do much social media stuff. I just do this. That's it. That's it, mate. Not much at all these days. Just find it a lot easier. Less problems. All right, well, that's it. Hope to see all you cool folk next week. Thanks for listening if you're rewatching this back. And bring your other plant science, soil science, and microbiology questions before the stream starts, and then we can enlighten. We can have a whole stream on your question if it's detailed enough, or otherwise I'll be talking about organic manures. So that's what's happening next week. Thanks again. Happy breeding, happy growing, and good health to you all. Bye-bye.